Rocking with Trust TV, and I'm back with another video. And I was doing this. I'm talking about us still buying into this whole black narrative, this whole African story plot, this conceptual art and this folklore, these mythical stories that are fake and fabricated. And being a slave does not mean denote to be an African. As there were Slavic slaves as well as Asian slaves. So I don't know how the African become the face of slavery. But let's go on, guys. I was just saying to myself how we as a people, we perish for the lack of knowledge, as it says in the word. And we do, because we don't ask ourselves certain key questions. Like, for instance, we think in such a small way. Think about a business. And I was saying this before. You can use common sense to dispel the African slave trade. Common sense will tell you it didn't happen like that. Common sense. How so? Well, let's think of a business. If I come to a land, if I'm a Spanish man, and I came from Spain, and I discovered new lands, and this land was fertile and pleasant to my eye, having every form of beast, every form of fowl of the air, as the Bible says, and every type of creepy thing, and every fruit and vegetable in it, every plant and every crop. And I come and I was like, oh, this is fertile. Oh, I love this. And I see this, and then I see that it's inhabited by a people. Millions of them. Why? And they know how to tend to, I see them gardening, I see them farming, I see them with their vineyards and their businesses, and I'm just looking around and I'm in complete awe at these people, and I see, and I'm like, all right, well, how do I conquer these people and get some of what they got? Because, I'm coming from a foreign land and I can't survive. I need some assistance, and I need this land for my, my queen. Well, first of all, what I ain't going to do is go export. Why would I export workers to first and foremost, it's not financial. It financially doesn't make sense. Think about it. If I have to buy my product, right? If I got to buy my product from different parts of the world, right? And I'm trying to I'm trying to get the best bang for my buck. The last thing I'm going to do is export when I have all these people on the land who can do the work for me. Why would I export? Half of my cargo would die before they got here, and that would be a waste of money. Nobody would invest in a complete loss. Nobody. And clearly these Spanish and these European, they were investors, because you're investing into something where you're looking to get back land, property, you know what I mean? Land, your servants or whatnot or whatever. They didn't come without a profit in mind, hence why they conquered, right? To gain something. So if you export, you would be losing more than you would be gaining. Because who says that those 6 months to a year seed-bearing days would render you in a whole bunch of actively working slaves? I did a previous video, and if I didn't upload it, I will say this now. Let's look at the state of what they say slaves were in, so we can dispel this whole slave narrative just using common sense, right? Using common sense. Look at this diagram of this slave boat. Look at this. Will you look at this? And I did a video, and I know there was other people who did this video, but nobody explains it like me. And that's the truth. We all explain now, yeah. Shout out to those people that's doing it, because all of us, each one teach one, right? But look at this. If we were stacked like sardines for 6 months to a year, I did a video on how long it takes. Maybe I didn't upload it, so let me upload it today. How long it takes for the human body to atrophy. So here we go. I had to type this in. How long it takes for human bodies to atrophy? 2 to 3 weeks. Now they're letting you believe, right, that they went to Africa. got about 5 ships, main boat, stacked all these slaves like sardines, okay, at the bottom of the boat, side by side on top of each other's head, body, back, no space for movement, all on wooden vessels, right? With these wooden skiffs, these wooden boats, right? This is what they're telling you, right? And you're coming from Africa they're going from Europe to Africa, from Africa to the Americas, is what they're telling you. Now, they're saying they're not docking, that the smaller boats pull up to their boats, right? Now, let's talk about this, right? Because I want to show you how this is not possible. First and foremost, there are no bathrooms at all for you to use the bathroom. That's number one. Key is you're going to poop, pee, and women will have their periods every month. You'll poop and pee every day. Before that, let's just think about the boat in and of itself, right? You're not navigating with the same systems of today. So there is no sonar. There's no GPS systems. You are navigating by wind sails and a compass and a map. You are not navigating land but water. So even if you navigate in this water, you have land roads to go down. You are literally you're free floating, navigating using wind sails to turn you right or left. Do you understand? So without somebody who is skillful in navigation and knowing matter-of-factly where they're going, you would be lost. Let's think about the ship. This ship has absolutely no installation. Installation was not invented then for boats or ships or boats of any kind, whether it's large or small. So these were just wooden vessels floating upon water, and below zero water, might I add. Okay? So it's like pouring, it's like when we pour our cereal into ice cold milk, if that makes sense. And if you feel the bottom of the bowl, right, it is freezing from that cold milk. And the people being the Cheerios, right? What do you think would happen to those people? They're no more than the cereal poured in the bowl. There's no insulation to keep them warm. Nothing. And you see how they say they have had us butt naked with the loincloth on. So not only are you in below zero temperature, because we know that Atlantic Ocean be below zero, that's that Titanic water, okay? On a wooden boat now, mind you, it sunk the Titanic. I don't care what conspiracy, they were like, I don't care. That was a steel ship that had somewhat of insulation. Not only fire was burned on that boat. Now we talking about these skiffs. Ain't no fire down there with the slaves. Look at the boat. Where is your heating source? Where is your heating system? And they be like, well, the body heat. Let me explain something to you. The boats have portholes, because otherwise everybody on that boat would suffocate to death and there would be no slaves, period. The portholes of that ship is going to open up to allow in oxygen. Not only is it allowing in oxygen, but water. So if you're at the bottom of this boat and the ports are also at the bottom of the boat, you're letting in water. Below freezing temperatures now, right? Because we're talking about the Atlantic Ocean, which is one of the worst seas to navigate. Because as Dane Calloway said, it has ocean gyres. These ocean gyres play double dutch with your boat if you are caught in it. So if you mapped out that you would get there in 6 months, it would take you 1.5 years if getting caught in that gyre and you're not knowing how to navigate yourself out of it. So now, not only are you now 6 months to 1 year on a boat that is uninsulated on below freezing, and you from Africa now, so that temperature off the back is something that you are not familiar with. So now you butt naked in freezing cold, below zero temperatures, weather. You are at the bottom of a boat where the seaports are open, letting in water. You're laying down, unmoved, because if you know anything about medicine and you got somebody who is a comatose patient or anybody who is laying down due to some type of ailment or disability, have to turn them every 2 hours. So if you're laying down on this boat, which is tossed to and from, and it's a wooden boat, and you're shackled from neck to feet down, right? That's what they're saying. There's a couple of things that is going to happen to your body. Number one, the laying down constantly would produce atrophy. As you saw before, it takes 2 to 3 weeks for atrophy. So if there was never said to have been any rehabilitation centers for slaves. They said they got you off the boat, beat you, whipped you, brand you, and put you to work. That now dispels that and lets you know that that was a lie. Okay, this is what we're here to do, prove it all a lie. Okay, they couldn't have beat you, whipped you, and branded you and sent you to work right off that boat because your legs would not function anymore due to the fact that you were chained down to a boat laying still for the whole duration of the alleged ride from Africa to the Americas, which took 6 months to a year. Your body atrophies within 2 to 3 weeks. Nobody ever spoke of a rehabilitation center. How did you get their legs to start back working? You could beat them and they'd die. Their immune systems wouldn't work the same. Why? Because they laid on a boat uninsulated with cold below zero wet temperatures. Not only that, they had scarcity in food because you only threw slop or water at them, so there was no proper eating. Okay? Didn't have any healthy eating. Not only that, they had no urinals, no bathrooms, no toilets. The women did not have pads. I know they tried to make up some fabricated lie. Anything they tell you now is bullshit. They're just trying to make up, excuse me for cursing, Lord. It's BS. They're just trying to make up for all the lies, for all the stuff they didn't tell you because they did not factor in that you would start asking these questions. We didn't have pads. No, nobody did. We probably did, because we aren't African, but there were no pads. They didn't have anything to absorb their menstrual. And if they were changed, how could they change their pads? They would bleed right through that. Anybody know if you wear a pad long enough on your period, you'll bleed through it. Well, women know this, right? You'll bleed through it. So, and you're talking about 6 months and you're strapped down. When did you have time to change that? You are still bleeding your menses out. You are also urinating and peeing and pooping all in the same location of other people's heads. You see how they got them? Look at this. This man peed on the man at the top, peed and pooped on the next man's head. The stench alone would kill people. The stench alone of urine, feces, and menses. And now not only are you laying in fecal matter and all these type of different people's body, their different, I can't think of body fluids. There it is. You're laying in other people, including your own bodily fluids. And you're being tossed to and from on a wooden vessel. Now, this wooden vessel, you have to understand what the freezing cold air does to us as a so-called black people with our brown skin. What does it do? It dries us out, right? When you're in that freezing, it does this to anybody. In those type of weather, your skin gets very dry. What happens when your skin dries? It cracks, right? So now, not only are you laying down in fecal matter, your skin is cracking from how dry the air is, right? And now your body is being tossed to and fro. Every time that wave hit, your body is being tossed. You're chained down laying. So now there's, and you see how they say they got them laying on their back? The friction of laying on your back. If anybody know and you're in the medical field, you know that if a person cannot move and lay on their back all day, guess what's going to develop? Decubitus ulcers. It is when pressure or friction is applied to that same area all the time, the skin begins to break down. And if you are laying on fecal matter and bodily fluids, guess what's going to seep into those cracks? The urine, the feces of others in yourself, which is going to cause what? Sepsis. you are now going to get an infection in your blood, in your body, which will evidently kill you. So no slave would have made it to America from Africa. Everybody would be dead. And anybody who survived the voyage would be unusable, because they would need to be revived and taught how to walk. Their diseases would have to be cured. And given the fact that the Spanish, though navigating with their expertise, and the Europeans, they did not know how to cultivate the land. They did not have enough medicines to care for their slaves. They didn't have it, hence why so many American Indians, when they did succumb, they succumbed, and hence why a lot of Spanish and Europeans succumbed to diseases such as smallpox and pneumonia and tuberculosis and so forth and so on. You were unfamiliar with the area. You did not know how to cultivate the field. So this dispels, just that alone, this dispels that you could even do this, navigate from Africa to America, because everybody would die. There is no way to have done it. You would have no slaves left. Nobody ever talked about a slavery rehabilitation center. So that proves that you can't now mention that, because we now know you're lying. They also, let's talk about what I was just talking about. That's cultivating the land. I've never heard of any old writings, new writings, and read any book that says that the Africans were taught by the Spanish, European, or American Indian on how to cultivate lands, on how to plant cotton and tobacco, or pick it, for that matter. Never heard of it. So can somebody explain that you think that you could take me, you calling me an African, right? You think if you took me and gave me some okra, or gave me an orange from Florida and sent me to Africa, I would know how to plant? And I'm not saying I'm a skillful planter. Do you think I would know how to plant that orange in the soil of Africa? Because you do know that African soil and American soil isn't the same. I would also have to know when to harvest these fruits and vegetables and plants. How would an African know? And they can't say the Spanish taught them, because we all know Spanish was dying from not having any food, because they didn't know how to cultivate the land. Hence why they needed somebody who did know, and that would be your American Indian. Nobody ever said, there's no story saying that the American Indian taught Africans how to cultivate the land. None. So can somebody explain to me how a bunch of Africans can come to a land unbeknownst to themselves, beaten and whipped, and put to work instantly, would know how to cultivate land, when the Europeans did not know how to cultivate lands themselves, and not even enough to be able to teach these African slaves? Can somebody tell me? How did they do that? Because there's no story anywhere saying that the Europeans even taught the Africans how to cultivate the land. Nothing. There's no manifest letters. There's no slave narratives, like they love to use those. Like anybody can draw up a slave narrative. I can write one right now. Anybody can make a fake ledger, a manifest ledger. You put a bunch of numbers, you put fake geographical locations, and you print it. Anybody can make that. You understand how this is virtually impossible, just using common sense? It could not have happened like that. And it would not have. It financially doesn't make sense. Your biology, it biologically doesn't make sense, because your human body could not endure that and live. Period. We have situations now where in our boat, where there was an older gentleman who moved into a boat, a yacht, with his wife. And his power had got cut off in his boat. He was on the Atlantic Ocean. His power had got cut off. His family couldn't find him for weeks on end. You could probably Google this. And he had froze to death. Froze to death. In this day and age, when we have electric on our boats, we have GPS, and this man froze to death in a metal vessel. How the heck do we think that that same thing would not happen to these alleged slaves in that condition? How? There is no way for the transatlantic slave trade to have transpired like that. No way. And then people use the argument, well, foreigners got here. Yes, but do you see how they got here? Look how let's show you foreigners coming here. I want to show you the boat. Look at these people. Look how they came to America when they came off these boats. Look at this. They came fully dressed and fully clothed. Sorry, now it's getting into I didn't want to do all that. They came fully dressed and fully clothed. Their boats that they came on was pushed by, I think at this time, not wind sails. What you call that? The pedals. I can't think of the pedals right now. But you guys, you can put it in the comment section if you know the boats that I'm talking about. But look how they came. Fully clothed, wrapped up. Look at that. They Sunday's best. Look at them. Look how they came. Look how they came. They sat on the boats. Let's see if we can get them on the boats to bring it on home to what I'm trying to say. Here we got them on the boats, right? Look how they dressed. They dressed for navigation. They're dressed in clothes. Now, they're clothed in attire that would help them be able to get over from, Russia, Ukraine, and Northern Europe to get to the Americas, right? Look at how they're dressed. Sunday's best. Look at it. And yes, foreigners were also brown skinned. So don't be confused thinking that only foreigners, because the European and Spanish, Portuguese, and Scottish and Irish were brown skinned folk. Okay? See how they came? See how they on this boat? Look at it. Will you look at this? This is what they say too. Look at that butt naked. Look at it. Look. How would this be possible? Look at that. Butt naked now. Crossing the Atlantic Ocean. Now, you saw how they were dressed crossing the Atlantic, right? You saw how they were dressed. They saying you were naked, surviving, laying down like this. See, and then you see how they have also conflicting stories where 1 minute they got you laying down, butt naked, and in the next minute they got you sitting up naked. There always is a conflict when you hear about this so-called transatlantic slave trade. The stories are never correct. Now, this photo doesn't tell you if the people that you see to this would be the side that you see me move on. This would be your right side. It doesn't tell you that the people on the right side, it doesn't tell you, it shows you them. If you see the boats in the back, clearly these people who looks to be Spaniards are coming to the land. And the people that are in the little boats and that are being surrounded, these brown skinned folk, they look like the inhabitants of the land. Look at this picture and what it is entailing. It doesn't show that they brought them here. It sees them pointing. But what is a point? This is conceptual art. What they did was show you a piece of art and give you a concept so that you believe it. This photo doesn't tell you if they own these people. This photo doesn't tell you whether or not these people belong or don't belong to this land. Do you understand now how we have been tricked, hoodwinked? Look at this. Again, this photo, this drawing does not tell you whether or not they're bringing the slaves off of the ship or to them. You can't tell nothing. You don't know what they're doing. You can't tell from this where they've gotten them from. This is conceptual art. So that's what I want you guys to understand when seeing or hearing about this transatlantic slave trade, just how common sense can tell you that that did not transpire. I'm not saying that the transatlantic slave trade didn't happen. I'm saying that it didn't happen the way they tell you it happened. And there was a lot more to the transatlantic slave trade than having just brown hues of complexion people in it. In 1618, there were the Chino slaves who also were brought to America from the Spanish because the American Indian slave trade was outlawed. They don't tell you about that. Why? Because those very same Chino slaves and those Asian slaves in colonial Mexico, From Chino to Indian, is a good book. But it'll let you know that those people were those Asians were trying to fight, those Mongols, if you will, were trying to fight for their freedom by saying that they were American Indian, because they knew that it was outlawed for them to for American Indians to be enslaved anymore by the Spanish or any foreigner that came to America. And so that was another group of different tribes of people that were being brought in to America before Slavic so-called white people came to America. And they did not get here until 1820, hence why your census records begin at 1850. And why Walter Ashby Plecker went back into the 1790 census as well as the 1800 census and rewrote them and reclassified and misclassified people with brown hues of complexion, calling them all Negro colored and black, no matter where they came from on this planet. Do you now understand why this didn't happen? No more should anybody fall for the lies of the transatlantic slave trade. It does not human, financially, biologically make any sense. Period. There is no corroborating or substantiating evidence other than these stories to prove it. Nothing but conceptual art pieces, as you can see. Okay? That does not give you facts of what, this is Slavic. That does not give you facts of what transpired. There is no ocular proof to substantiate it. There's no ledgers, manifest, documented evidence from Africa or America to prove that any of this happened the way they said so. Africans only know the stories through Westerners, right? They only know it from missionaries. A lot of Africans will tell you, we didn't know about the transatlantic slave trade. We had no idea. Well, if that happened to Africans as a whole, all throughout Africa, is what I was saying, why don't these people know about it? Would they not know about the slave trade? They know about the Arabic, I'm saying that right, slave trade that took place in Africa. Why don't they know about the Europeans enslaving their people? Would they not have a proverb telling their people, don't go with the white folk. Don't go with them white folk. They'll take you and kidnap you, take you from you. There would be something, but there was nothing. So anyway, I hope that helps y'all and all the people who still believe in this so-called African slave trade to know that it's fake. Look at this. All lies. Look at this concept. They said they branded you. You know that happened to them. You know that's the Ottoman slave trade. The word Slavic derives from white folk. A Slavic people. I did a read on about the girl who wrote how Slavic is from, oh, shoot. The word Slavic. Hold on. Sorry, y'all, for it being so long. I don't mean to make these videos long, But you're going to understand it's not easy to explain this stuff. It really isn't. Here it is. Again, please go watch this. Read this article. The Word Slave Come From My People by Martina Petkova. And she's talking about the Ottoman slave trade when Slavic white people were enslaved and how they were emancipated or set free in 1865. It's a really good read to let you know they did not own your people. They were slaves themselves. What they did was, when they could not find work and we did not want to do business with them, they burned down our towns. You can see this. They lynched our people. After lynching and bombing and setting fires to our towns, they then stole the name of the wealthy by saying that that was their ancestors and putting their name on the census records that had already been established prior to them coming to America. So you do not have the names of your slave owner. That is a lie. They have your name. Anyway, this is Kendra with True Us TV. I hope this helped y'all. Stay up, stay blessed. Put God first above all else. Peace out.